Hi guys, I am really hoping that you can see me and hear me. I just realized you get a little bit of my light up there. Hopefully this is actually showing up for you. If you guys can see me, can you just maybe just type something in? I have my computer screen down here, so I'm hoping I can kind of follow comments and everything like that. Anyway, I'm hoping you can hear me. Let me see. Screen down here. Okay. So I'm hoping I can hear myself. Okay. I hope you guys can see me, and I really hope this is working. So, just please comment if you can see me. Okay. If you can't see me, I don't know what I'm going to do differently. Oh, okay, yes. Thank you, Jocelyn. Thank you. Okay, I feel much better now because honestly, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done Facebook Live before. And anyway, I should introduce myself now. My name is Heather Day Gilbert, and I am really honored to have been chosen for this month's author talk, and I'm just really pleased to be in this Facebook group. You guys are definitely live up to your name. You are avid readers of Christian fiction. I mean, there are so many great book suggestions in this group. I cannot believe it. I have found some great authors. I found Carrie Stewart Parks in this group, and I really love her books. Just by way of where you are, you're up on my loft. This is where I write. I used to have an office, but I don't anymore, and I'll maybe explain a little bit later. I wish you could see out the window, but I don't think you can, but it is snowing here again in West Virginia. So it's been quite a snowy March. Not completely unusual, but it is quite a bit of snow today. I think maybe supposed to be 5 inches. And I just wanted to say thank you to my neighbor Jen for watching my littlest daughter today, and my daughters for watching her too. And I also have my cup of coffee. And if you know me, you'll know that my cup of coffee is never far away. And so this is as close as we can come to simulating just hanging out on my front porch with a cup of coffee, since we can't really go on the front porch today. But so that's kind of where you are and what we're up to today. Thank you all who've read Guilt by Association. Thank you. Hi everybody, it's so neat to see everybody chiming in, and feel free to comment. I could see some of your comments. Yes, I could see them down here on my screen as well, on my computer screen. I wish you could see this setup. I do not have a tripod today, okay? I don't own a tripod. So I have like a chair and a rolling chair and a stool and books. So this is very precariously positioned. I'll have to try to take a picture when I'm done talking and post it in this thread because I think you'll probably crack up. But anyway, okay, so let's go get down to business. I guess we should. So I can actually, and I talk pretty fast, so I don't know if we'll get done early or not. Hello, Cindy. Hello, Becky, Patty. I don't know who else is here. Chloe. Nice to see you all. And I'll show you, first of all, I wanted to show you, oh, sorry, I'll turn around here. These are some of the gifts for people who are commenting in this thread. And by the way, thank you all. Thank you, those of you who are my loyal readers who came here today, who even maybe joined this group, so you could be in on this. You will not regret being in this group. If you love Christian fiction, you will enjoy it. And thank you, Martha, and everybody who moderates this group, because that's a huge job. I know it is. But today I have 3 gift packages, and in each one they're going to be a journal and some teas and a Candleberry air freshener. But there's also the first one. You will be getting Out of Circulation, which is a softcover of my romantic suspense novella set in West Virginia. And hey there. And then you'll be getting Elderberry Croft, which is by my critique partner, Becky Dowdy. And she is an amazing writer, and I love this book. I constantly recommend this book. It's filled with so many good stories of different people, and I love the protagonist in this book too. So that will be in the first gift package, and it's signed by Becky. The second gift package will be a signed copy of God's Daughter, which is my Viking historical. Many of you know that. Some of you like my Viking historicals better. Some of you like my mystery and suspense better. Hey, it's so nice to see everybody. I don't know if this is tracking in real time, but it's nice to see everybody popping up. And this is Written in the Stars by Christina Coriel. And I just love this book because it's a really small town setting. When I started reading it, it was like I was walking around my town because I'm from a rural area. So it is just a great beginning to a 2-book series. And this is, of course, the start of a 2-book series too. And I'm constantly recommending that book too. And Christina's awesome too. Christina and Becky. And this, for the third package, you will be getting, the third winner will get Trial by 12, which is actually the second book in the mystery series, the one before Guilt by Association. And The Secret Life of Book Club by Heather Woodhaven. And I know I have mentioned this so many times in this group because people are always like, what's a funny read? You know, what's a read that's not focused on romance, more focused on friendships? This is the book you want, people. This is such a good book. And I'm telling you, this book made me laugh out loud, literally chortling out loud. Some of these, and it's mostly married women, but just some of the adventures they have crack me up. So that will be the third prize package. And I'm just so excited to give these books away. And I'm so, thank you guys for your nice comments. I know some of you love my Vikings, and yeah, I love them too, but I'm kind of focusing on my mystery and, well, really my mysteries right now, and I'll kind of get into that. Let me see if I'm kind of following. I wrote down what I'm supposed to be talking about because I knew I was going to forget. Okay, so I showed you the prizes. I know that Angela and Heidi did a great job of sharing about their journey to publication, and so I thought that would also be good to do because I know there's some of you in this group who are interested in writing a book. There are many of you who've written a book. You're not sure what route you want to take to publication, and sometimes you don't know until you get out there and try. So I'll just tell you a little bit more about myself and kind of my writing journey. Hi everybody. Hi Tina, Emily, Lucy. Sorry, I don't know how far up I'm going here, but so good to see everybody here and so many of my readers. It's really exciting. So let me grab my coffee, and I promise, like I said, not to slurp. So I started reading from a very young age. I was maybe 4, and I really loved to read. And so I really liked words, and I started writing too when I was pretty little, and I won some writing contests along the way. And then I went to college at Bob Jones University, which some of you have probably heard of, especially if you're homeschoolers. You may have heard of their curriculum. It's a very conservative Christian college, and I graduated from there. My husband, so many members of my family, so it was a great college. But when I went there, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I went in with a criminal justice major, thinking I was going to become a cop. And suffice it to say, I did not stay in that major. And I switched to humanities, which is like a liberal arts major. And so I took a lot of literature classes, a lot of writing classes, and one really cool little, this is a little sidetrack, but one of my writing teachers, one of my writing professors was Jamie Langston Turner. And I don't know if you all have read any of her books. The Suncatchers was her first book. And so I just still remember when she wrote on one of my papers or assignments, she wrote something about, be sure to give me a copy of your first signed book someday. And I just remember that stuck with me because, you know, she believed in my writing. And so the really cool, like, full circle thing that has happened is that I have been able to speak a couple of times at Bob Jones since then, and one of those times I was on an author panel sitting right near Mrs. Turner. And so that was pretty amazing to me that we got to do that. The Secret Life of Book Club. That's the book of Heather Woodhaven, yeah. Sorry, I was answering one of those questions there. And you guys can rewatch this at any time. It'll go up later. If you hear any noises downstairs, my husband's been working on cleaning the basement, things like that, so I do not want to interrupt him. I'm going to let him keep doing that. So sorry if you hear a sound of vacuuming in the background. But in case you've... Oh, and here comes my cat. My cat is trying to make his way in here too. Everybody wants to get in on the action. Anyway, my husband is similar, very similar to Thomas Spencer in this book, which is the one that we're discussing today, Guilt by Association. I don't know if I held that up yet or not. But he is also a lawyer like Thomas, and but I'm not going to tell you that he's 100% Thomas, because then I'll really get the big head. And but he is a very great husband, just like Thomas. And so I really wanted to portray that married relationship in my mystery series, and of course in my Viking books too, if you've read those. So anyway, okay, so back to college. So I was able to take a lot of different kinds of classes with the humanities major. I took sort of classes that I wanted to take, like I took judo, abnormal psychology, history of Rome, lots of writing classes, and lots of literature classes. So it really gave me a great base for becoming a writer someday, in that I knew... I knew a little bit about a lot of things, and that seems to work for me. And I really enjoyed reading classics and things like that in college. I kind of got into classics more then. Glad I became a writer and not a cop. Trust me, I'm sure my husband is too, because my aim is not the best. Okay, but anyway, I thought it would be nice to be a sniper, but honestly, like I say, my aim is not the best. Just ask my kids. I play video games. That's what I kind of do to blow off steam, that, or I work in my flower beds and things like that. And so my kids, it's kind of a running joke. I am a terrible shot most of the time. It's a little embarrassing for them. But anyway, so I got out of college and we got married in 1997, so I graduated in 95, so there was a little time there, and then we had 3 children. Well, my husband was in law school in New York City, so we lived there for a year, and then we went to live in Greenwich, Connecticut, which is actually where actually the next series I'm working on is a cozy mystery series, and it will be set partially in Greenwich, Connecticut, partially in New York City, which is where we also lived, in Manhattan, and then partially in a very small town in upstate New York. And my husband's parents are from Western New York, which is upstate area, and, well, it's Western, kind of on the Pennsylvania border area. And so we lived there with our 3 children when my children were very small, ages 3 and under. I had 3 children, 3 and under, 3 in diapers at the same time. So you can imagine that my life was pretty much, I wrote some poetry at that time, but I started a book. It actually was Miranda Warning, the first mystery, but I didn't finish it. And my husband kind of discouraged me a little bit, and of course I had not been critiqued before, so I thought everything I wrote was perfect, and I think most authors kind of think that when they start out. Maybe I'm the only one, but I mean, I thought it was great, But he said, I really needed to dig into the character Rose, which if you've read Miranda Warning, you know who she is. So he felt like I just really didn't get into her story enough, and I didn't get that far in that book. When I just quit, I just gave up. I was like, just fine. I won't write that book. I don't have time to do it anyway. So then I had one of my college friends, when my youngest was about 6 years old, one of my college friends challenged us to NaNoWriMo, which I don't know if you all have heard of that. It's National Novel Writing Month, and it's where you try to write a 50,000 word novel in a month. And so I determined that I was going to to try to do that, just kind of with a challenge with her and another friend. And so I did, you know, I put my kids to bed, and then I'd go down to our cold basement where the cat litter box was, and it was not very conducive to writing. But I would just sit down at the computer and make myself type. I mean, I want to think it was 2,000 words a day, maybe something like that. So anyway, by the end of that month, I actually finished the book. And I was amazed that I had a completed book. Now, it was 50,000 words, which is it's short, and it was in a genre that probably would have been really difficult to get published, which is paranormal. I would call it speculative fiction, along the lines of Frank Peretti. Only I thought it was like M. Night Shyamalan, you know, like it was going to be made into a movie. I was sure that it would, even though it was neither 100% Christian fiction or 100% mainstream fiction. It just sort of straddled the fence between the two, which means that, quite truthfully, it probably would never be published by either one of them, but I was really sure that it would. So I was able to get an agent with that one, miraculously, and she enjoyed the story, but she had not proposed any books before, so she wasn't really, that book just didn't have a chance. It was short, it was in a kind of a strange, it just didn't really fit anywhere. And that tends to be what I have a habit of writing. If you know me, I do not write in the box. I usually write what I want to read, and so quite often it's way outside the box. Which brings us to my next book, which many of you have read, and that's God's Daughter. God's Daughter I wrote because of my Viking, we're supposed to be related to Eric the Red, so I figure it's through Torvald, his son, who actually died in the New World, which is up in Newfoundland area in North America. So I read about this Viking woman, Gudrid, and I thought, I really want to write a book, a Viking book, so I started writing just a Viking fiction book about just some fictional person, and my husband was like, well, why don't you just write about Gudrid? Because she was known to be a Christian. She went down in history for being a Christian and for sailing to North America with her husband, for having 3 husbands. 2 of her first husbands died. One of her husbands was Eric the Red's son, Torvald. Oops, sorry. Okay, I'm trying to keep my computer going here. So anyway, I wrote that book. I really liked the book, and I got an agent with that book, Andy Shearer, who is an amazing agent and just a super edit. He's not an agent anymore, I don't think, but he is an editor. He even edited like the Left Behind series. He edited some, I think he edits now maybe some for one of the Cusslers, Dirk or Clive Cussler, Dirk, I think. I don't know, sorry, I don't read those books, but anyway, he was a great agent. He really believed in that book. He helped me edit that book. And don't worry about being late. I'm kind of skimming the comments as I'm talking. Oh, Angela, oh, tell him I said hello. Andy and I are still in touch. He really believed in my book. And he even wrote a blog post on it because he knew that he felt like it was a great book, but it just didn't fit. It was, at the time I was trying to get that book published. In Christian fiction, they didn't want your book set in another country. They wanted American fiction. And even though mine was in North America, up in Newfoundland, it was still too different. It had a married protagonist, so while there's some romance strands in both books, it wasn't the main character. That book was out on proposal for 1.5 years, people. I mean, I will tell you something. If you want to feel your spirit broken down, then just keep your book out on proposal for 1.5 years. And just you're checking every email and then nothing. So anyway, suffice it to say, around that time, through my critique partner, Becky Dowdy, and other friends and other ways, God showed me that I needed to indie publish that book and that I could independently publish that book. So my brother worked on the cover for that. He's a computer guy, and and I got that book out, and it did really well. It was a great debut. I was so amazed, you know, that people like Laura France, Lori Benton, Joanne Bischoff. Joanne has believed in me and encouraged me with these Viking books. I mean, there are so many people who believe in the Viking books. It has floored me. And of course, I mean, my mysteries too, but I just was so thankful for those authors who came alongside me at the very beginning and were willing to read and endorse that book for me. And I hope that I've done that for some other authors too. There are just so many excellent independent authors out there. And I would just recommend that if you all have not tried independent authors, please do so, because I see so often in this group people asking for certain things, and I think there is an indie author writing that. You know, indie authors are able to write about these things that are slightly outside the box. So be sure to ask in the group. And I know I try to recommend indies, and I know other independent authors do too. Christian independent authors have really raised the bar for independently published books, and they're winning awards. I know Joanne's, the lady in the Lionheart, has won all kinds of awards, you know, and rightfully so. So I'm so thankful, because when I started, there were a lot of doors closed to indie authors. You know, there were many reviewers who didn't want to review if it wasn't from a publisher. There were many contests you could not be entered in. And just in the course, that book was published in 2013, and just in the course of that amount of time, now there are all kinds of contests, you know, the Carols, the Christies, everything open to indies, and it's just been great to see the changes. And I have so many reviewer friends in this group even, who've probably even reviewed Guilt by Association. So anyway, that's kind of my writing story, and the rest of it is so convoluted. I've had several agents for various reasons. One agent I obtained, or I got, because there was a movie house interested in optioning the rights to God's Daughter. And so, you know, I wanted to have an agent. That was when I was indie only. And, but movies are really difficult to get optioned, and it takes years. And so, anyway, I am on my 5th agent. Actually, I would consider it my 6th, if you consider I had 2 at once. So, and it's Julie Gwynn, and she is great, and with the Seymour Agency. And so, she got me my most recent contract, which is a 3-book cozy mystery contract with Kensington Books. So that will be more of a clean mystery that's going to be in mainstream. It's not with just through Christian publishers, but you guys can trust, and I think you know that if you've read my books, you can trust there's not going to be cussing in them. There's not going to be graphic scenes in them. That's just not what I write. And so I hope you can pick those up too, even though I will not be able to talk about them much in this group. Yeah, I wish there would be a movie of God's Daughter. We haven't heard back on that, and so I've kind of given up on that, but I'm just glad I have an agent in case that ever does come through and they ever get back in contact with us about that. So, anyway, that's kind of my writing journey, and it's very long, and I will tell you that it takes a great deal of just kind of not really stubbornness. I think the fact that I was a strong-willed child really helped me when it came to being an author, because I just was when I really want something, I'm kind of unwilling to take no for an answer, so I'll just find a way around it. I know that sounds terrible, but I am kind of relentless. So I see so many of my reader friends. You guys know who I am. You've read my if you've read my Viking books, if you've read my mysteries, you know kind of who I am. Because as authors, we do put a lot of ourselves into our books. My romantic suspense books, I would say, are more of a reflection of my area where I live in West Virginia, but they're written in 3rd person past, and that's not necessarily my favorite. Oh, and that's something else I do weird too. I write in 1st person present tense, or 1st person past. That will be my cozy mystery series, will be in 1st person past, but that's just yet another thing I did that was way outside the box. Oh, Jocelyn. Thank you, Jocelyn. I really appreciate Jocelyn Green's words of encouragement, and I have loved her historical books. I really recommend those, and it was just an honor to be in the Message in the Bottle romance collection with her and Amanda and Joanne and Maureen. We just had a great time with that collection. But I need to figure out what I'm doing here. Okay, so I've talked about my indie career. And you guys could feel free to ask questions too, because I think I'm keeping up with the questions, but feel free to ask any questions. Oh, okay, Cindy, first person, past or present or third. My favorite to write in is definitely first. That comes the most naturally, to me. That doesn't sound right, but anyway, yes, first person is my favorite. And so, because when I write first person, I really do feel like I become that person, at least in my own head, although I know I'm not. Like if you've read Freitas in Forest Child, you know what kind of a crazy person that was to get into her head. But, you know, as I got into her head, I realized more who this woman was and why she might have done the really deadly things that she did. She historically did those things. And so I knew I wanted to bring that to life because she was Eric the Red's daughter. And I mean, you never hear about her unless you read the sagas. And so I wanted to know why somebody would do that. And I loved writing first person, although it was difficult. And I had people praying for me when I wrote those scenes. Oh, thank you, Angela. Thank you. Thank you. I like, yeah, I don't know if it's chick lit or women's fiction-y or what. I do tend to write about families a lot. And of course, married characters. So that kind of sticks me right in the women's fiction genre. So, oh, thank you, Chloe. I'm glad it made it more suspenseful. To me, so when I wrote Guilt by Association, I'll just tell you that I went into it thinking I knew who the killer was. And I found out, maybe halfway through that it was not the killer that I thought it was. And so I continued writing until I figured out who the killer was. And actually, the cool thing is I've just read an Agatha Christie book, and I think she kind of wrote that way too. So I love that, like, just not knowing who it is. And some of my books are like that. I go into it thinking I know who the killer was going to be, and then it surprises me. So, oh, thank you, Beth. I know you like Tess, Beth. Tess likes you too. And some people wonder, like, which character are you the most like? And it's kind of like, I don't really want to tell you because then I feel like you'll know my weaknesses and everything like that. But if you ask my husband, he would tell you I am similar to Tess. I tried to deliberately make Tess a little bit different from me, such as Tess likes cats and I prefer dogs. Okay, things like that. But yeah, how do I surprise myself in order to find twists? I guess what I do is I figure out who did it. Like at some points I'll be writing along and then I'll realize, okay, I don't think this person had a strong enough motivation to do the crime, and so I think it's going to be this other person. And then what I'll do is I'll go back into my story and figure out ways to make it so it's not impossible to guess that person. But I really do like, I don't really know how to describe it, but I like to surprise myself. Even with my romantic suspense, even with Undercut, I like to have a little twist, or with Out of Circulation, both of those. I like to have a little twist that that readers might not expect, and it just kind of makes you go, oh, like that. That's what I'm hoping for. Miranda Warning was a little bit more evident what was going on because that was sort of a different, I wrote that book in a different way. And I was really, with Miranda Warning, a lot of that was exploring the family relationships with her in-laws, which, I love the in-laws, and we'll talk more about that. Okay, but I'll get back to, so I kind of smoothed over that question, which character am I like? I am a little bit like Freitas too, which every time I say that, people are like, oh my word, stay away from me. But Freitas is a very independent woman. She is a very strong-willed person, and she will not stop for anybody or anything, and sometimes not even for God. And so I wanted God to stop her in Forest Child, and I wanted him to get through to her. And he did, in a way that I saw a little bit of it coming, her relationship with her husband. And that was right out of the sagas too, that Freitas did in the sagas threaten to divorce her husband if he didn't sort of help her out. And so that a lot of the stuff from those books come right out of, yes, I know Forest Child is not an audio book. My critique partner is my audiobook narrator, and she is booked up a lot of the time, but that is going to come. That one and Guilt by Association are definitely on the agenda to be made into audiobooks too. God's Daughter is an audiobook, you know, probably, and Miranda Warning and Trial by 12. And Becky does a fantastic job because guess what? Becky knows my characters almost as well as I do. And sometimes better, because Becky has wonderful insight into the human heart and emotional things that sometimes I don't always get the nuances. So she is just the perfect critique partner for me, and I thank the Lord for her. Anyway, but I will pull it back to Guilt by Association, since that's what we're talking about today. And as you might have guessed, this book was a difficult book for me to write because I just was able to tell people in February that we adopted our foster daughter. We have had a foster daughter for a year and a half before we were able to adopt her, and it is a family placement. So, and when we got her, she was 2.5. So my past year and a half has been kind of crazy. It's like, I never thought that I was going to go back to I have 3 teenagers. I have one in college, and they're like stair steps. I have one in college, a senior, and a junior. And then I have we got a 2.5-year-old. To potty training, everything like that, getting her caught up on a lot of things, like even just talking. And so there was just a lot going on, and that's kind of why I have started seeking more traditional publishing contracts, because with indie publishing, you spend a lot of time, perfecting your cover, getting the editing done, the formatting, the audiobooks, and so I just didn't really have time for all that. I'm going to market my books either way. I like marketing. I actually enjoy marketing, and so because you really have to believe in your books to be able to push them, and I think that, I believe, hey, these books need to be out there. I want to get these books out there, and with Guilt by Association, as you can guess, there's a very strong message about opioid abuse in West Virginia, and that's where I live. I don't know if I mentioned I was born in West Virginia. I grew up here for the most part of my life, except for 3 years in South Carolina, which is probably when I picked up some of my accent, which has been toned down a little bit over the years. And we're living back here now. This is actually the house. This is a renovated part of the house, but this house has been here since the early 1900s, and my mom was actually born in this house. So anyway, but West Virginia, anybody who's from West Virginia, I think probably every person in this state either knows someone or is related to somebody who has a problem with opioids or drugs. Years ago it was meth, crystal meth. Everybody was doing that. Now it's opioids. And so so just kind of part of our story is that we knew this problem was going on, but we were sort of dropped into the middle of it with this foster situation, and you don't really realize how widespread it is. Until I will just tell you that when you start fostering, you have to go to foster parent classes. And we had to immediately, like every Saturday for, I want to say 5 hours at least, go to these foster classes for like a month and a half. And so I just remember the first Saturday we went, it was at this large church at a large town near us. We're in a rural area, but this was at the bigger town, and in a big fellowship hall. We walk in there. This class was only for relative placement, so it's only people who are taking on foster children for family members. We walked into that classroom, and it was so full that they had to split that class. That's how many people there were, taking a class to take care of their family members. And it just really opens your eyes and breaks your heart. And I promised myself I wasn't going to cry on here, so I'm not going to let myself do that. But anyway, I mean, I'm talking about grandmas who are maybe 65 or older. I remember one who had a newborn baby. She was taking care of a newborn baby because both the mom and dad were in prison. And she loved that baby. And I'm so thankful she stepped up. But it's like, I felt kind of old for the game I am 40 years older than my daughter. That we did just adopt her. Thank you. I think you guys saw that. We adopted her in February, so now I can finally say it online. So, there were many times when I thought maybe I'm too old for this, but God just continued to show us that we were the right parents for her. And I will tell you that fostering is one of the hardest things we've ever done. And I've had so many people ask me and contact me after this book. And I just always recommend that if there are single moms, single parents who foster, but if you're married, I highly recommend not fostering unless you are both 100% on board that this is what you need to do, because you're both going to have to take all those classes on the Saturdays. You're both going to have to get fingerprinted. You're both going to have people talking to you about everything, and it's a complete invasion of privacy. They know everything about your house. They know everything. They know a lot about you. And one of the hardest things about fostering, and I do try to mention this, is that you don't really have any say in anything about that child. You are basically babysitting that child for the state. And so it's very difficult when you go to the meetings and you hear them talking about for the whole year or however long the parent has to get off the drugs, and you hear them saying, well, our first plan is reunification. And you're thinking, this parent is not capable of taking care of themselves, much less a child, and then, our daughter started calling us mommy and daddy not even probably 3 months into it. And so let me tell you, once they start saying, I love you, if they can, and start calling you mommy and daddy, your heart is 100% in it. And so then you have to walk through every month's meeting knowing that child might go back. That child might not get to stay with you. And it is emotionally just so difficult, and I know so many of you know exactly what I'm talking about. I've had so many emails from people who tell me these stories you would not believe of families that have just been ripped apart by the drug epidemic. And so it was something that I knew needed to be written about, and in a realistic way. But so I always say I don't want to discourage people from fostering, but I do recommend that you are fully aware of what you're getting into and that you know that that's what God wants you to be doing. But at the same time, fostering is one of the best ways that Christians can make a difference for the future, because there are so many abused and neglected children whose parents, are not taking care of them. I mean, we've had cases in West Virginia. I think there was one of a child playing in a ditch, and it was snowy outside. Of course, they were not even dressed, and I think the parents were on drugs or something. I mean, it's like these are stories you don't even want to hear, but they're going on all the time. And so Christians can really step up and change that child's life. And I will say that when you step up to do that, you're stepping right into Satan's target. You will be a target. and you will get hit every which way. You can't even see it coming, and often it's by family. You know, with the person, if it's a family placement, that can be an issue. So there's just so many things to think about, and that was kind of why I wanted to write about the drug problem in West Virginia, but also about the foster care situation. I wasn't sure how Brady was going to come out of this book. I didn't know if Tess was going to be the one that needed to step up to the plate for him. And so, but as I got toward the end of the book, I knew that that's what needed to happen for Brady. And so, and I'm sorry, this is a spoiler alert. I'm a terrible spoiler. But in the next book, I don't think I'll go through all the ins and outs of the process that Tess has to go through, but I do think that you will see Brady again. So, and there will be at least one more book in this Murder in the Mountains series, because those of you who followed the series all along, you know that Axel Becker, we have to have some kind of an explanation of what, oh, that's terrible, Lucy, I'm so sorry. Tried to help just burn up in a fire because of drugs. Yeah, and that's the thing I tried to point out in the book, that, I mean, it really does only take one time, and I don't think people understand. It takes one, you could be hooked after one time, and it's so sad that your whole life could be ruined, where you don't care about your life anymore. All you care about is the drugs. You don't care about your children anymore. You just care about the drugs. And another sad thing that I just read is that in West Virginia, the sexual trafficking has gone up because families are trafficking their children to make money for drugs. And that made me think of Susie Finkbeiner wrote a book called Paint Chips, which was about that very topic, about family sexual exploitation of their children. And Susie did not do anything in a graphic way, so I strongly recommend that book. But it's just a terrible thing to see in your home state, to see it being destroyed from the inside. And I know that changes are being made, and there are a lot of changes I think that are starting to be made, but I do think that Christians can make a big difference in the interim if you know you're supposed to be fostering. It's a very big step. So anyway, but yes, back to the series. So yes, there will be at least one more, because Axel Becker, Axel just kind of waltzes into my books whenever he wants to, you know, and I'm just always like, what are you going to do today, Axel? You know, because he just cracks me up, this big German florist. You know, he's a total anomaly as it is. Such a masculine guy, but he's a florist. So, yeah, do I also write about things that are not linked to my... I write about some things that are not linked to my life. Yes, yeah. I mean, a lot of what I write is fictional. So, in fact, most of it. But I think most authors draw from their own experiences, or from experiences they've heard of. And they also draw from people that they know. Especially, like, for instance, with Nikki Jo in my books. You guys know Nikki Jo, and she really wasn't in this book as much as I wish she could have been, because I love Nikki Jo Spencer. She is an awesome mother-in-law, and I will tell you that I have a wonderful mother-in-law and I have a wonderful mother, and Nikki Jo is kind of a mesh of both of those two. How she likes to cook all the time, and she's always there for Tess, and yet she's feisty, she's going to protect Tess, and and Tess is like this daughter that she never had, and I love that relationship. So I hated that I couldn't get more of Nikki Jo in this book, but really in Guilt by Association, it was more about her mom, Perletta V, and just kind of working through that whole situation of what Perletta, how she'd kind of let Tess down in life, and yet how Tess was going to deal with that. Okay, so I will quickly get to some of my questions from Guilt by Association. And these are on my website. If you go on heatherdaygilbert.com, if you go there and go to the top, and it's book club discussion questions. And you can just click it. I think you have to click it twice, and it will bring up the Word document. And I'm not going to ask every one of these questions, because I know that some of you may not have... some of you may not have read it yet, and I don't want to do spoilers, but I will just, I feel like I may be screaming. My ear has been stopped up for literally like a month and a half, and I've been taking decongestants, antihistamines, everything, trying to get it. I think it's finally back to normal, but I could be wrong, so. Okay, so we'll just discuss it a little bit. Since this is a book club discussion. And if you haven't been able to read it, that's fine. I hope you can. And if you don't like first person present and you just really can't get into the book, that's fine. That's fine too. I know not every book is for everyone. And as I know many people have talked about in this group, there are some books that everybody seems to love, and you start reading, you're just like, I don't get it. You don't connect with that book. And so if you really didn't connect with this book, I'm okay with that. I have other books, or you might just like another style. So but just keep reading. I know you will, but I'll kind of ask these questions. You know, as you read Guilt by Association, you kind of see some examples of where Perletta V has really let her daughter down in life, and so many times when Tess basically had to be the parent because her mom was not, and her dad had run off on them when she was young. So one of my questions was, do you feel that Tess is right to distrust her mom, or do you think she should have been quicker to forgive and forget? Do you think Tess was being unreasonable when she was very conflicted about whether or not her mom was involved in this drug death? Okay, I don't know if everybody's going to be able to answer or not. I'm reading all these comments, but I don't see any about that. This one's going a little slower. Okay, well, anyway, I guess the reason I wrote it that way, that Tess was, I wanted the reader to feel that kind of back and forth that Tess feels, the mixed feelings that even these foster children have, I think, toward their biological parent who's deep down the hole of drugs. You know, there's always going to be those conflicted feelings. And for Tess, growing up, there were so many times when her mom was not there when she needed a mom. But thankfully, you see how some other people stepped up in her life, like Billy Jack. I mean, he surprised me. I didn't know that he was going to be somebody who was there for her. Oh, thank you, Beth and Kathy. Yeah. Yeah, I think that you almost don't understand it until you see that situation and you realize, I mean, because I grew up with fantastic parents that I could trust 100%. 100%. And so I think that, but so many people don't have that relationship. So many people don't have that relationship, and I wanted to show that, yes, wise as a serpent and innocent as a dove. And I think that's what Tess was trying to do. She loved her mom. She loves her mom, but she doesn't know if she can trust her. And so I think that's kind of what I wanted to show. And I'm glad that came through. Okay, my second thing is that there are many references to the Nancy Drew mysteries in my series. And Tess is often described, obviously, as Nancy. And Charlotte is kind of like George. And Rosemary is a little bit like Bess. And in this book, we spent more time with Rosemary. And she's a little bit more of a loose cannon, whereas Charlotte, well, anyway, so that was my question. Was how does Rosemary contrast with Charlotte, and which of those friends did you prefer? Like, which one do you think is the better friend, I guess, for Tess? Although I think she really is friends with all of them, with both of them, for different reasons. But I do think she's closer to Charlotte, and I have my theories as to why she and Charlotte are really close. I'm waiting to see if anybody comments. But I would just say that Charlotte is kind of a laid-back personality. She's not very highly strung, demanding, that kind of thing. Whereas Rosemary is a real piece of work, as you can tell. She's just like this bombshell. Now, she could get things done for Tess, and she helps Tess a lot. In this one and in Trial by 12. Now, in Miranda Warning, we didn't really know where Rosemary was coming from. But yes, you're right. Charlotte gets Tess, and Charlotte is kind of, I guess if my personality is a little like Tess, then Charlotte is a little bit like the people I tend to be friends with. I'm pretty driven and, like I say, relentless, kind of more outspoken, I guess. And so I tend to have friends, and like my husband isn't, I think he's an INTJ, but he's sort of a quieter type of person, thoughtful, very intelligent person. And so I thought, yeah, Rosemary's a little intense. Yeah, Rosemary's a little intense, and I think she's a little too intense to be hanging out with Tess all the time, because I think Tess gets a little frustrated with her after a while. She's a little unpredictable. Okay, so we'll go down to, we talked a little bit about Axel. Yeah, Charlotte is more steady. You're right. Tess needs somebody who's steady in her life. And can you blame her? Oh yeah, these are great. Great comments, guys. These are excellent. Great comments. You're so right about friends and the types of friends that Tess would choose. Oh, okay. My time is quickly fleeting. So I'll do this one. I wanted to talk about this. Could you describe Thomas and Tessa's marriage in 2 words? How would you describe their marriage? When I created Thomas and Tess, I wanted to sort of imitate Agatha Christie's Tommy and Tuppence mysteries. That was a married couple who solved crimes. And so I kind of wanted to recreate that a little bit, although Thomas really does not help Tess too much. Yeah, okay, sorry, I'm seeing some delay there. Yeah, there is a little delay on the comments. I'm watching it both places here, so. But I just wondered if you all had 2 words that you would use to describe Thomas and Tessa's marriage. And I'm just trying to think of what words I would use to describe them. With the first book in the series, you see how they're more immature, especially Tess. She doesn't really know what a functional marriage looks like. She hasn't seen that except with Nikki, Joe, and Roger, and she's marrying into that family. So with Miranda Warning, we're right in on the start of their marriage, and she has more, and Tess has a little bit more temper at the beginning of this series that she's got to learn how to control. Trusting and soulmates, yes, that is perfect. Loving and steady, that is perfect. Yeah, and mutual support. Like Tommy and Tuppence. Yes, those are great words. That's exactly what I wanted to portray, that Thomas is this, he is a friend and a soulmate and a backup for Tess. He doesn't like her being in all these terrible situations that she continues to walk into. And I will say that is obviously where I'm different from Tess. There are many things that she has done that I would never have walked into. Obviously, I have kids. But usually Tess is motivated by strong loyalty to people and trying to bring justice about. And of course it's a mystery series, so she has to run into murderers. Yes, Thomas is a lawyer but not wealthy, and trust me, that comes from reality. Definitely reality. And lawyers put in very long hours, at least my lawyer husband does, and so you are quite often on your own. And so I wanted to bring those realistic aspects to their marriage. Yes, they are each other's safe place. And I think I was able to bring that out more in Guilt by Association. I felt like I was able to show how Thomas was really there for her at a time she needed him and in the way she needed him. He knows her love language, which I'm not exactly sure. I would say it's probably just time together, maybe. And he shows up for her in a very critical, emotional time for her. And Tess is not one to give into her emotions. As you know, she's not one of these heroines who's always breaking into tears. Instead, she's pulling out her gun. Okay, not just randomly, but that's kind of how Tess, she's a tough cookie and she's been through a lot. And so I think Thomas instinctively knows how to be there for her. And so does Nikki Jo, I think, to a great degree. Yes, I wish Thomas could work together with her more, but I think in a way that would not be realistic with his job. Now he's been promoted to prosecuting attorney, and so I know that's Thomas is very busy, and I think that's part of what I wanted to show was that that's part of the lawyer's life and the lawyer's wife's life is that your husband is frequently working. And so I wanted to kind of show, but Tess is a very strong woman and she could deal with that and take on some murderers in her free time. Okay, so, okay, our time is running out. One last question. We see that in the book, we saw that Tess also had a run-in with somebody else from her past, which would be her father. And personally, I had some pretty conflicted feelings as I wrote her father, knowing that he had walked out on her. And so, do you think, by the end of the book, we did not see resolution with that relationship. And so, do you think that Tess was right to kind of not jump in and say, oh, I forgive you, let's hug and be best friends now, I want to see you all the time? You kind of see her mixed feelings toward her father. And so, hey, Shannon. So do you think, I just wanted to ask you if you personally have ever experienced a time when you've forgiven someone, but you had to set boundaries so that that person did not hurt you again. I feel like that's where Tess is. She hasn't even forgiven her father yet, but I feel like she has to maintain these boundaries around herself. Because he is unpredictable in her life and he's not going to be a reliable father like Roger Spencer is to her. Oh, okay. I hope you guys can still see me. I think it just disconnected. I don't know if it disconnected or not. I'm hoping you can still see me. Okay. I don't know if you could see me or if it just stopped. Okay. Anyway, my time's almost up anyway, guys. So I don't know if there's any. Okay. Hey, Kathy. I don't know if there's any comments. Okay. Forgiveness with boundaries, sort of. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the place where so many of us are. And I'm not with any of my immediate family or anything like that, but I do see that even in some friendships, there's just different relationships in our lives when we really need to set boundaries. And so obviously Tess, and she's even set boundaries with her own biological mom, Perletta, because she's a little unpredictable and she's not going to just let her baby, Mira Brooke, just let Perletta watch her. For probably a good long time, I would say. But Nikki Jo obviously babysits all the time. Okay, guys. Well, my time is almost up, and I am just so glad that this actually showed up, and I see so many people participating. It is just awesome to see so many of you and to talk to so many of you. I feel like we're kind of going back and forth here. Yeah, you all have definitely, I'm catching up with the comments here. Yes, and I think Roger really does help Tess. And Thomas, I mean, he's a really great dad for Mira Brooke. Oh, yeah, Shannon. Thank you. I'm glad you like that quote. Yeah, Tess is nothing if not active in trying to help people. Guys, I want to thank you all. I'm going to go through these comments, and I'm going to pick 3 of you commenters to win the prize packages. And thank you all again for choosing guilt by association. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I'm glad you understand, Kaylee. I appreciate that. And I'm so glad to see you all. Just a final thought. If you really liked, if you just found these mystery books and you really love them, and you would be interested in being in my secret Facebook group for mystery and suspense, and it will probably mostly be for my upcoming cozy mysteries will be the next thing that will be. It's for people who want to influence. Oh yeah, Thomas's brothers. Yeah, I didn't even get into them. But Andrew, he's just a cutie, isn't he? And of course, Petey too. But I think Andrew might settle down somehow by the end of this series, believe it or not. He's a real ladies' man. But anyway, if you're interested in being in that secret Facebook group, be sure to friend me on Facebook at the person who's talking right now, Heather Gilbert, not at my author page, and just send me an IM, a message that you're interested in being in the mystery group, and I will add you to that. And in that group, I give updates on all my mysteries and my suspense, and deals on that and everything like that. Oh, hi, Rachel. Hi. It's so nice to see you. I have such great readers. You guys are awesome. Yeah, Beth, the Brad Pitt look-alike, right, Andrew? Wearing his Birkenstocks everywhere. He's just too cute. Okay, I see your comments, and so you guys just who are interested in the group, just go ahead and friend me, Facebook friend me, and then I will add you to the group. I'll make note of your name and try to add you to the group and everything. So, yes, Tina, you're right. Sometimes you have to set those boundaries. Yes, definitely when they're not Christian, because they have a whole different set of values. And especially if you're trying to raise your kids, you know, you're going to have to set some boundaries. So, yes, I do have a secret group. So, okay, I will check those friend requests and add you guys. It's an influencer group, so I love to, you know, I'll ask you when I have prayer requests for things I'm writing, or I try to do giveaways occasionally and things like that. And of course, joining my newsletter is a great way to keep up with everything. You can find that link on heatherdaygilbert.com. There's a link to sign up for the newsletter, and I do give away soft covers, and we talk about books, and I tell you just basically about all my new projects and, you know, cover art, things like that. So, so I think our time is up. My clock's saying 4 o'clock, and I don't know what time it is where you all are, but I just thank you all so much for being a part of this, and I have had a great time today. You know, I was nervous going into this, but once I started seeing all of you guys show up, it's just so encouraging. And thank you to all of my readers, all my new readers, and all of my author friends who showed up. And thank you to the Avid Readers group for actually giving us a chance to do a book club like this and get to know, so other people can get to know us, and I get to know you even from your comments. And you guys are awesome. My readers are awesome. You guys are great. I mean, my readers contact me and share things with me, and that just means the world to me. So thank you all very much, and thank you for being here today. And I will shut it off now, and I will choose 3 winners, and I'll post it probably in this thread or up at the top of the group. Okay, bye guys. I'll see if I can stop. Okay, bye. Thank you.